Well, we all want to be more educated and informed about the legal processes that might impact us, and any one of us can instantly become part of the system when we're called to jury duty. But there are a lot of things the typical juror will never know. Here to fill us in, we have Colorado's best attorney, Phil Harding from Harding & Associates. Happy Friday. Go Broncos, right?
I know. We were just talking about it before.
You're always educating us. Last week we talked about, what the insurance companies try to keep from us. But now it's always interesting to know that if you get called as a juror, there's some things you may never hear. Or no.
Yeah, and to lead into that, last week we talked about insurance companies. We talked about how they trick you to try and pay you less money, and we gave you kind of an insight how to double, triple, or more your recovery. So if you didn't see that, you can go back to coloradosbest.tv, click on it, and see some old segments.
Yeah, all of your segments are on there.
And so we talked about that, but one of the things that we talked about was, if you bring an injury claim, some people think, oh, you're being greedy because you're bringing a claim. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, I think that, that is the kind of the, people in general, when they hear about someone else, with a big lawsuit, they're like, oh, they're just trying to get rich.
Sure. And the example that we use, which I think is highly important, is if you're playing with a child baseball and they hit the baseball through your neighbor's window, you don't go to them and say, oh, wow, I am so sorry about that. And then if they say, oh, wait, you want me to pay for the window? That's just ridiculous, you're being greedy. It's the same thing. And that's
same concept if you hurt yourself, right? I mean, it's not a window, it's maybe if you get broken somehow, right?
Exactly. If someone is broken, then the other party needs to pay for it. And there are some key things really that I want to go into and talk about, just like this window. You break it, you buy it. So there are some things, and let's talk about initially on a jury and why it's so important to do that. And I think we have a graphic for it, kind of what jurors should know. And if you're called to be a juror and make a decision in a case, you need to make a decision on that case, not on the stuff that you've heard. For example, that the U.S. is #1 per capita of attorneys. I mean, that's wrong. About the McDonald's case, a lot of that filters into the jury deliberation, and it really shouldn't. You make up your mind about that case. Number two, I want people to listen to all of the evidence, because a lot of times once I interview jurors, after the trial, they said, hey, we really liked you, or we liked the other side, and after the opening arguments, we decided who was going to win. And it's really weird, because opening and closing statements, those are not evidence. What attorneys say, that's not evidence.
So they had based it on the opening?
On the opening, and so I got to tell you, so many people do that, so many jurors. And another thing that I hear is jurors say, I'm intimidated because I didn't know what decision to make, what to do. And we kind of went to the third graphic there, in that you get jury instructions at the close of evidence, and it kind of walks you through how you decide who wins and who loses. And then the last thing that was there is, it is so important. This is so important. You are part of the legal systems. You're part of what made America great. Here, we get to decide who's right and who's wrong. In many other governments, remember, it's a governmental official that's making a decision and may have political acclamans one way or the other. Wasn't even a word, but I made it up, but it sounded good.
Ramifications, I was trying to go there with you.
But it really helps. It's what made our country great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
many people, when you hear interviews after big trials with the jurors, I mean, they seem like it really meant a lot to them to judge it. They didn't seem like they prejudged it. They really, took the time and wanted to do the right thing. But what surprises me is to find out that there's a lot of information they don't ever get to know.
I know. It's crazy how much doesn't go to the jury, but still a judge makes the determination. And I want to, we have another graphic about this that I want to talk about what jurors don't get to know. First of all, if there's a trial and you're a member of the jury, I want you to know that there have been ample opportunities for the parties to settle this, and they probably even tried to settle this case before they filed the lawsuit.
But you don't get to know that.
You won't know that.
Okay.
You won't know anything about settlement negotiations. The next thing is, once a lawsuit is filed, the judge may order another settlement or mediation to take place. So don't think that the parties didn't try to settle it. The next thing, if there is a defense attorney on the other side, you can pretty much bet that there's insurance involved, but you can never know about insurance. As a matter of fact, if insurance is mentioned during a trial, that's a mistrial.
Why is that?
Well, because the legislature and everyone says, you should make a decision on whether someone is injured and how much they're injured, if at all. And it shouldn't come into a play whether the person can pay for it or not. You decide on this case. It's so important to kind of go over that. And then the last thing that we were talking about, there are caps on damages that could have, that even though you might give, for example, the McDonald's hot coffee case.
The McDonald's hot coffee, everyone remembers that.
That's right.
She got $3 million, right? That's what we heard.
Exactly, but there was a cap. The second the jurors walked out, that $3 million in punitive damages got knocked down to $480,000 and then reduced even more. But you won't hear that. So if you're a juror, listen to the evidence and listen to what attorneys are telling you, especially the plaintiff's attorney. If he says, hey, tell you what, if you want to award pain and suffering, you know, don't award more than X number of dollars, because they know what the caps are. And I've got to tell you, there are some weird laws that are out there.
It doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem fair that the jury members think $3 million is going to be awarded, and that's what they want. And then there's a cap for $480,000. I don't get it. Why wouldn't you just let the jury members know?
I agree, and they're just weird things
Okay.
like that, you know, on suits and caps against the government, against liquor
just the
stores,
way it
all
is,
that.
right?
That's the way it is,
Gotta
and
deal
I'm
with it.
happy to answer any questions if people want to talk about that.
All right, we appreciate it. You always have such good subjects here. So it sounds like really no matter what anyone needs help with, they can call you for questions. You'll take the time to kind
Absolutely.
of walk them through it. So if you want to go to our website, coloradosbest.tv, you can see his picture there. Just click on it. Then you can fill out a form and send him your questions. He takes the time to answer them personally and confidentially. And if you'd like to contact Phil at his office at Harding & Associates, here's the number, 303-762-9500. He's also online at hlaw.org. Well, coming up.